Welcome back. We are the change we seek, aren't we? Welcome to UUCJ's summer series. As you've heard now for the third time, I'm Jeff Funderburk. I'm a member of your worship team. The worship team, by its charter, is tasked with providing meaningful worship services that support spiritual growth and beloved community. I'm glad we have such a small task. Fortunately, your team has some great members. Our contract lay minister, Peter Racine, of course, is on it, and Sharon Scholl and Penny Reed and I make up the rest of the members, and Bob Harmon, who's sitting over there, is our board representative. All of these people have great input. Crystal Vakes, who's our tech director, always comes to our meeting, and we look forward to her input. And everybody has a voice. She's an invaluable asset. You know, we work together. Peter once asked, how do you come to decisions? I said, well, we just talk about them and we come to a decision. Because we're a team, and we work together towards our common goal. Now, if you're interested in working towards that common goal and becoming a member of the worship team, you can talk to any one of us, and we'd be glad to tell you more. Or if you want to become a worship associate like Susan and many of our other wonderful, talented worship associates, give us a shout. We'll work with you. The worship team starts planning the summer series in February. We really get serious in March. Sounds kind of funny, but February is dedicated to figuring out our theme, and then in March we start finding our speakers. Usually we have 8 or 9 Sundays in the summer when our minister traditionally takes off that we have to fill with speakers. It takes up a lot of time. Fortunately, Peter, with his time on the Jacksonville Jaguars Foundation, or whichever one he was on, has so many contacts in the city that we can find a variety of interesting, knowledgeable, and informative people. This is not to dim the contributions of our own congregation members. You've seen so many of us up here talking to you about whatever the summer's theme is. And their turns in the pulpit are characterized by excellence. This year, in the face of dramatic events in our country, we turned our attention to those who may find themselves without a voice, or even without a place in our community. My suggestion for a title, or theme, was Giving Voice to the Voiceless. But that fizzled like water on the sidewalk in July. We hear those voices, but what do we do on hearing them? Our theme became what you saw in the Weekly Connections email, amplifying the voices of justice in your community. What is your call to action? Once again, it's a really thin topic and it's not very ambitious, so we did our best to provide some information. All right, once we had that theme, we set about recruiting speakers. I'll tell you about them shortly. I was once again recruited as the opening speaker introducing this series. Here we go. Much like other of my talks, today this will take the form of a confession. What have I done to further the voices of justice in the community? Well, I scratched my head, I sat down, I did some thinking, I reflected, I looked back, I did all those things you're supposed to say, and I figured it out. Not a whole lot. Now, I could dance around the theme and the idea and point to my financial contributions to various entities, or maybe how I ensured that justice was served properly during my time on active duty and in the reserves in the Navy, or how I'm nice to people most of the time. Most of the time. But I have to ask myself, where did I come up short? And just as importantly, have I ever opposed justice for anyone or any group? I certainly haven't been enough of a physical presence in issues of justice in Jacksonville. Years ago, when the Human Rights Ordinance was being debated in our city council, I did not contact my council representatives. I knew that they were going to vote for the Human Rights Ordinance, though. Did that inform my silence? Should I have spoken up anyway? When our iCare members, among others, Lois Haft, went down to City Hall, I wasn't there. Some of my dear friends, as I said, Lois Hafe, managed to make that trip downtown. Where was I? My mother was a Catholic, and I grew up with Catholic guilt, so forgive me for being such a guilty guy. Now, okay, in 2017, I didn't make the trip to Washington to march in the parade after the presidential inauguration. Remember the one with the pink hats? Nor did I participate in any local festivities, demonstrations. I was in New Zealand. Okay, do I get a pass? Please? Now, more recently, my wife went to the town center demonstration not too long ago. I was unfortunately working, but I hope you give me an associative credit for her going there while I wasn't. Now, in 2020, I called my congressman, John Rutherford, when I learned he was joining a lawsuit filed by Texas against the voting system in Pennsylvania. Now, it was really painful to try to figure out what was going on there. A Florida representative was joining a state of Texas suit against the state of Pennsylvania. Saying this reveals how contorted the situation had become. At any rate, after contacting his office, I suggested that if Congressman Rutherford felt so strongly about Pennsylvania's voting issues, he should move. I didn't offer to help load his truck. He can do that himself. More recently, I've called my new congressional representative on several issues, but Mr. Bean never calls me back. How am I doing so far? Not so good. I remember talking to Philip Baber when he was our director of religious education about that human rights ordinance, and he wondered if we as a church should have been gathered downtown to support that cause. He had a point. Now, some of our members have put their bodies into the fray in demonstrations and protests over the years. To my knowledge, none was arrested, but that might be a mark of honor. You don't want that on your record, but it's still a source of pride. Do we need to take a stand in our name as a UU church, as the Unitarian Universalist Church of Jacksonville, against some or any of the injustices taking place now? Do we need a town hall to discuss our positions? Should the board come up with that? Now, years ago, I was asked to do a sermon. It was a service, as it turned out, on motivation. It's a pretty broad brush on the subject in the service that day, but that's what we have. The question was, why do we try to do hard things? These could be physical, intellectual, emotional, whatever. The range is broad. Why do we come to church here at UUCJ? It isn't because we're interested in accumulating credits for everlasting salvation, since our chosen faith doesn't advertise that. I remember one of the first times I came to a service here when a fellow visitor, it was probably my third or fourth time here, sitting next to me, picked up his Bible at the end of the service and commented, "Guess I don't need that." Well, today I'd advise him, wait till next week. So why do we do what we do? I suppose because it's the right thing, because it aligns with our principles. Here, in this life, it makes a difference. So here, I'm going to introduce the difference makers for this summer. Next week, what is that, July 6th, Dr. Irvin Pedro Cohen of LISC Jacksonville, Local Initiative Support Coalition, he was in the paper today. Did anybody see? Little thing. He's helping people sort out inherited properties, because over the years people inherit properties from their grandma and grandpa, and there's really no paper trail, but it's really their property, and he's helping. That's one of the things they do. They are dedicated to transforming small local neighborhoods into healthy and sustainable communities of choice and opportunity. You know, good places to live, work, and raise a family. It funds initiatives that promote the neighborhood and wealth creation and community advocacy. There's much more. I look forward to the talk. Following him, the following Sunday, Reggie Fullwood from Operation New Hope. New Hope provides support and training to people impacted by the justice system. They empower people to break the cycle of poverty and re-incarceration, not reincarnation, re-incarceration. Faye Johnson will follow him the next Sunday after that. She's of Northeast Florida Healthy Start Coalition. This group strives to reduce infant deaths and improve the well-being of children, childbearing mothers, and fathers in Northeast Florida. That's a special collection Sunday, I believe, Meg. So Ms. Johnson will speak, and we'll try to raise some money for her cause. The last Sunday in July, all right, listen carefully, UUCJ members will be talking on their experience working for justice in many areas, as broad as our congregation is. I got a homework assignment for you, so stay tuned. August begins with Richard Ballard of the Nassau County for the Homeless. This is a nonprofit dedicated to ending homelessness in the community. They provide emergency shelter, food assistance, and job application assistance, and many other services. And this also will be a special collection for that particular group, right? So far, so good, Meg? All right, the next week, we're in August now, Charles Griggs of the City of Jacksonville's Community Initiatives will talk. And our last speakers are from Jasmine, Jacksonville Area Sexual Minority Youth Network. Their longtime leader just retired, and we'll see what their new leaders have to say. I think their name, the Sexual Minority Youth Network, says it all, and we'll appreciate a return visit. They've talked here before. Peter gets back in the pulpit on the 24th of August, and our church year starts with a flying leap. It's a great lineup. As we tell visitors, as I said, come back next week. It will be interesting. All right, homework. Are you ready for the homework? On July 27th, when our members talk, we have 4 speakers, we will ask you in the congregation to volunteer your stories, sort of at a joys and sorrows period. What have you done to amplify the voices of justice? We won't have a joys and sorrows that Sunday. If you don't have anything to say, that's fine. Look at me. But if you do, or if you know of something that someone else has done, someone close to you, please jot a few comments down and be prepared to share it. We won't be grading your efforts, but we look forward to hearing and seeing what you have to say. Right now, I'd like to give some thanks out. Hope Clayton, who is out with eye surgery, and Sharon Scholl and Jean Hubner suggested the hymns for today. I thank you so much. This musically challenged, loud, but really bad singer appreciates your insight. Now, looking at all the hymns in the hymnal, we can find lots of inspiration. The Fire of Commitment was written in 2002 for the 50th anniversary of the Nashville, Tennessee church, the UU church there. Today, its message sounds loud and clear for me. From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear. Our minister keeps reminding us of the heretical past of Unitarianism. Now, the hymn has a great visual of those pilgrims seeking a life of liberty, and it ends with a prophetic promises of deeper justice. Deeper justice. That's our call to action. And apparently we do have prophets. On another theme, 17 years ago, not quite, in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Knoxville, Tennessee, a gunman entered and opened fire with a shotgun. A member of the church was killed when he unselfishly put himself between the shooter and his targets. A visitor died as a result of the shooting, a woman. Members of the church subdued the gunman who had said that liberals, Democrats, African Americans, and homosexuals needed to be eliminated. And he hoped that the police would kill him. He didn't get his wish. He's serving a life sentence in the big house. I don't think he has a chance for parole. I'm not going to ask you to throw yourself in front of a gunman. I'm sure many of you would. But we stand now at a precipice. All edges are frightening. The curb separating the sidewalk from the street can be difficult for some to traverse. As much as looking over the edge of a cliff in the Grand Canyon can be frightening. But we must steel ourselves to walk to the edge and not be afraid of what we see or what we must do. I've told you my shortcomings in response to our call to action in this summer's theme. I take immense comfort in being a member of this congregation with its history of involvement on social issues. I'm confident we'll stand firm in the face of injustice and amplify the voices of justice. Thank you for your time, and don't forget your homework.